short number of slides. I'm going to be succinct and hopefully make you chuckle. So 2 good goals here. It was very nice to be invited, and let me get going here. So everybody knows this is true, right? Everybody can read through this, and everybody can see that I found photo evidence on Google of the answer to an age-old question. And when you go hiking in the woods and you see some scat, if you have the same book at home like I have that helps you pictorially identify where the scat came from, you can play the game of whether it's from a coyote or a bear. Otherwise, you can drive in the woods with somebody like Brian Vrablick, who's here, who can tell bear scat from other kinds of scat, and gave me a lecture about that last week. But you don't worry about this. You don't panic about this. You say, there was a bear. And you're very glad that you didn't see the mama bear and the cubs. Okay, now, it's part of a natural cycle, and we all get that. Now, in urban areas where 50% of the world now lives and where close to 70% of the world is expected to be living in the next 20 years or so, we've made a major disconnect from that natural cycle. Our wastes are something that we are generally terrified of. And this is largely because our wastes contain pathogens and they can cause big time public health crises. Cholera is one, typhoid is another. So in urban areas, these natural systems have been replaced by engineered systems as a way to protect our public health. And we've done a fabulous job with this. I bet nobody that lives in Seattle and has had water from the Seattle tap has gotten cholera in 100 years. We've done great. Now, the problem is, though, that with this big disconnect, we have these engineered systems that do a fabulous job. All these things that are resources in a natural system and with natural cycles become waste materials. And we are wasting a huge amount of resources. And not only that, we don't understand how natural cycles work. So instead of cycles, and no harm to Dave Sensel and Civil here, we have equations like these about how to get rid of as much nitrogen as possible, as quickly as possible. So we have a major disconnect going on. Now, that disconnect on what is resources and that disconnect on how humans fit into this cycle. And so we had that natural cycle for the bear. This is what we have in an urban area. And if you read the text, I bet you'll chuckle and nod at some parts of this, right? Okay. This is true, right? How many of you have watched the Cooking Channel? Yes. Okay. And how many of you have ever thought what happens where you go to the bathroom? After it flushes and it goes down, everybody's happy and doesn't give it another thought, right? Because it went down. And then in almost every city, Seattle and Portland notwithstanding, you have, instead of 4 different containers, you have 1 big container, maybe 2 if you have something that separates the glass and the plastic out. Food waste goes with the garbage. Food waste is garbage. This is what people have become in the US, and this is to protect public health. But we got that part down now. And my job, and what I take as my personal mission, and a lot of people in this room have been helping me with this mission, including Kate, if she didn't go into labor just yet. Not yet. This is Kate in the picture, and I'm going to give you some of her data. This is work that was funded by Mark Fuchs, Department of Ecology, who's here, Northwest Biosolids Management Association, King County Wastewater Treatment Division. I work a lot with biosolids, which is the most like yuck factor of any type of residual around there, and I think it's gold. It's one of the best products I've ever worked with. People are terrified of this stuff. But if you look, it's mostly water. Here's some compost made out of biosolids. Then a big part of carbon, very nutrient rich, lot of phosphorus. Not only these guys, but every essential plant nutrient that you ever wanted as a plant is in this material. And in about half of the material that's produced in the US is currently put in a landfill where it does nobody any good and releases a lot of methane and nitrous oxide. Now, the work that I was talking about that was Kate's master's thesis, we have a paper out on this, and we have other similar papers, and you see this in papers coming out right and left all over the place, is when you take these things that we've had the luxury of treating as waste materials for the last 75 years, and you put them to a beneficial use back into a soil system, you see carbon sequestration like nobody's business. You see nitrogen increases, and you also see improved soil properties. So, for example, and I'm scared that this thing is going to fall off, so that's why I'm having a weird arm movement here. Wheat fields, dryland wheat, an increase in soil carbon of close to 50% over synthetic fertilizer, increase in nitrogen, and a water holding capacity increase of about 10%. When you're dealing with dryland wheat, a difference in 10% in the water can mean a huge difference in yield. And in fact, we've seen 25% increases in yield, which food security, farmer agricultural profitability, all of these come into play. Not just dryland wheat, we've seen this with compost applied to landscape plants. Compost, look at this water increase in orchards in eastern Washington. This is enough water savings for this one guy's farm to provide enough water for the city of Sunnyside, which is the nearest city where he lives. 80 acres of cherries, if you use the compost, you get enough water savings for the water for Sunnyside. Here, stormwater highway right away, look at this increase in carbon, and the bulk density goes down 60%, which means the stormwater goes into the ground, not into the storm sewer system. Even in turf grass, which you have not only in golf courses but in people's yards, you see. So there's a huge potential here for material that we've all thought about as waste. Now, my goal in life is not to make everybody necessarily into bears, but to make everybody realize that their waste, just like the scat you see when you walk into the woods, is a valuable part of a natural cycle and is something that we don't have the luxury to think of as waste. And here are all people that have realized that.